Good morning, everybody. We're coming to you live right here from inside the main build facility at Bubba's Exotic Motorsports. I'm Tom. The ladies' man's laying between Bub and I. You can't see him right now, and we all know the master, Bub. What's happening, Bub?
Hey, man, I'm just working away already, dude. Let me tell you. So I was here all weekend long, right? Getting some custom painting done on one of the Jeep JKs.
No, you don't work, Bub.
No, no chance,
You don't work hard.
So let me tell you, dude, that is a process. So we will show everybody the before afters of this Jeep JK that we are building for one of the Marlins guys. Let me tell you, man, to take those factory pieces that are all in the plastic grain textured finish, I would have thought would have been a fairly easy process. Typically, when you're working with paint and body, every piece does take time, but I'll tell you what, man, to remove that plastic graining from some of like the original fenders, the steps, the bumper accessories, some interior trim pieces, to remove that kind of grain, bro, I'm using 40 grit sandpaper to try to knock it down level enough to where I can then put 2K sealer primer on it so that I can wet sand and block everything out so it's a smooth finish. Then I can apply that base coat, clear coat. Let me tell you, I've got some serious hand working and time into those pieces.
This episode is brought to you by Bubba's Exotic Motorsports, ladies and gentlemen. That's bubbasexoticmotorsports.com. Make sure you visit our online catalog for over 20,000 new parts by the biggest names in the world because they trust us here at Bubba's Exotic Motorsports. Miss Outlaw Boutique, the moose is loose down in Abacoa. Miss Outlaw Boutique, 561-660-6695, ladies and gentlemen, for the latest in boutique accessories and apparels. It is Robin and Layla down at Miss Outlaw Boutique. Bub, Barrett Jackson's going to be in town April 12th through the 15th here in the South Florida area at the South Florida Fairgrounds, correct?
Yeah, man, it's we've got a lot going on, and the next couple months are going to be pretty solid, intense, man.
Bub, you released a big amount of information on Saturday. You dropped the bomb on the world. We are moving our podcast platform over to Podcast One. We are going to be talking more about that. It is a huge industry game changer. We'll be on with Shaquille O'Neal, Adam Carolla, Eddie Trunk, all of the big names out there, Bub. It's going to be really super amazing.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
But we talked to Paul Sr. and from Orange County Choppers and Joni throughout the weekend. Would you like to tell everybody where Paul Sr. and Joni were this weekend and what they were doing?
I don't know, bro. They're like skiing or doing something or snowboarding or riding around on these snowmobiles. I don't know what the heck it is that they've got going on.
They were over in Italy, Bub, racing motorcycles down snow-covered hills.
See?
The Harley-Davidson streets going down the hill. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. They are on the way home, Bub. We want to remind everybody that April 15th here in Florida, there is a huge unveiling going on. Tell us about it, Bub.
So, yeah, man. So it's been a long time in the making. Paul Sr. and the entire crew over at OCC, what you guys will see airing on Discovery Channel again starting in May, 10 p.m. on Thursdays. American Chopper is back. They have been doing some crazy stuff behind the scenes as much as well as we have here at BEM, but there is a crazy unveil that's going to take place. We are all looking forward to it.
Hey, Bub, I know Joni put out a picture of one of the two bikes that was built. It's a chopper. The other bike is going to blow everybody's mind away. You studied it very carefully. You're the only person who have seen it outside of the Tuttle family and the producers at this point. It is pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty solid, man. It's it's just that typical OCC design. It's super unique, super creative, but fully functional at the end of the day, and that's where it's at.
It's so amazing. We will be there for the unveil April 15th, Bub. We will be giving the time and dates of that. We ask everybody to come join us. Let's pack the house and show the Tuttles the love. Seniors there, juniors there, Mikey's there, Joni's, the whole world's going to be there, Bub. It's going to be great, man.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to it.
Bub, right here is the Beast, the Bubba Edition Beast. 800 horsepower, all carbon fiber intake. The whole thing, it took you 4 days to build this car. Let's talk about this thing. It's an animal. It's an Audi RS7. The client wanted the power. He didn't cheap it. He went for it.
Yeah, so you know what? First off, let's start off by, so this thing being the Audi RS7, there is the S8s, there's the S8 Pluses, and then you get into the next level up from those. In terms of pricing structure, these things, of course, every one of them breaks that six-figure mark.
Sure.
But you get into the next level up from there, gets into like the R8s, the R8 V10 Plus. So there are crazy amounts of performance vehicles designed by Audi, and let me tell you, every one of them is incredible, bro. There are personal opinions attached to this. There are also professional opinions attached to it. Right now, this thing is, I would say, probably, in terms of what your money buys, a pretty all-around solid vehicle. You know me, I love the Mercedes AMG styles rides, but I don't personally enjoy the air ride style suspension on those things. I feel like they could be a little bit tighter, but I get it. They're a little bit more of that luxury side of it. This is a very well-balanced car in terms of its luxury, its performance, its braking, handling, steering, the interior of it, the ride quality, the handling. We drove, not this one, but another one, an S8 Plus. Saturday night, we went down to a game. We took that car down there.
Yes, you did, man. You were VIP at Marlins Stadium with Derek Dietrich. And
yeah, I'll tell you what, bro. That way that car drove and handled, even at 100 plus, just on the highway cruising. It wasn't a soft, sloppy ride, which is to me sometimes what you get out of air ride. It's a little too soft.
I don't feel that way, but I understand.
But it was very tight and firm to the road, but it handled like it should, and it absorbed bumps very, very well. So I kind of had a pretty strong growth just from that drive alone. You know, I cruised that thing back for about an hour from Miami area, so it was great. But I'll tell you what, these things rolling off the production floor at just over 600 horsepower, 605 is where these things are rated at. These things are beasts from the factory. Pretty much, I think, in the 0 to 60, like the 3.1, 3.2 range, depending on the rides. You take these things, you unlock them, you do a couple bolt-on pieces to them, and look out. Let me tell you, you have an animal on your hands.
Bub, one of the things that you did, I want to thank our new producer, in-house producer, Kenry. If you hear the camera shutter going off, ladies and gentlemen, it is because he is taking BEM to a whole new level here from a production capability standpoint because of our new Podcast One contract and something else we have working in the works. He is working with all their production team, putting things together. So we want to say welcome and thank you to Kenry, Bub. Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Kieran says good morning.
Good morning to Kieran Sheehan out there. Kieran, Bub, tell everybody who Kieran is and what his affiliation with the Audi RS7 is.
Yeah, man. So he himself also an RS7 owner, man. Serious mods and upgrades to his. Owner of Blacklist Detailing. So a lot of great things going on rolling out of Kieran's camp and soon to be partnering up, doing some crazy stuff with us here at BEM. So
watch out for that. Watch out for that. Kieran's also in a very noble profession that goes back a long way. He's part of the old school people. I don't want to release that, but he's a really, really good dude. Kieran, thank you for being part of the BEM family. Right here.
Yeah, so you know what, much like every ride out there, especially when it comes to like modern performance, right? So I'm talking like Camaros, Mustangs, Challengers, you know, Corvettes, you know, anything and everything out there. What is the go-to? The go-to for most guys when it's a performance-oriented vehicle is not so much take the motor out and strip it apart like it was in the old days, put bigger cams in, do this and that. There are still guys that do that.
That's really kind of going by the wayside today, isn't it, Bub, in terms of modern performance if you're not at the track?
Exactly, if you're not at the track. But like what I mean by that is the go-to guys. So you do your intakes, you know, whether it's a cold air intake, you do an exhaust system. Some guys cheap, some guys just go with an axle back system, some guys go with a muffler replacement. In this case, this one is a full carbon cold air intake assembly, also with a full downpipe kit all the way back on this car. So you do air intake, you do the exhaust, you get that flow. As you know, any sort of boosted application, the more they breathe, the better these things perform. That is just what the nature of the beast, right? When you've got a turbo, the more air in, the more air out, the better it's gonna spool, the more response it's gonna have, the better throttle response, the better power, et cetera, all the way down the line. Now you do this with quality companies out there in the industry. This one is running the AWE intake on it with a full APR downpipe kit, which is high flow catted, so it is still emissions compliant, but very high flow and performance. I'll show you the original cat here in a second. And this one's running an Acro exhaust on it all the way out the back, which took some serious mods to get that system to work with the APR setup because it wasn't a true like stock cat back system. It was a full downpipe back originally. Oh, you're just gonna cut me off and hand it to me right now? So I guess I'm just gonna talk about the cat now. So now, since I'm now shifted focus, I'm gonna talk about this cat here for a minute. So here's the original catalytic converter from the Audi RS7. This is also the exact same thing that is on the S8, the S8 Plus, the 4.0 twin turbo motors. So this cat is very large, as you can see. You can see not only the size of what we're working with, but also the restriction on the size and diameter of these pipes. Now the new system running 3-inch all the way down. This setup was very restrictive in terms of the way the exhaust flowed through it. Of course, very clean and to its nature, emissions compliant, but it is very restrictive, and that's not what you want in any sort of, I mean, really any application, but more so in a turbocharged application. This setup has now been completely replaced from the turbos all the way back, and let me tell you, what a freaking difference, dude. These things typically, hold please, we have an interruption here. It's probably my girl too. I bet it is. It was. So I'll tell you what, man, when you start by doing bolt-ons to these cars with the proper companies, the proper match branding products, you can have serious gains with true bolt-ons out of the box, and this is exactly what that was. This was a kit all sent in from APR themselves with the exception of the AWE intake. This thing was netted at APR setup with just over 700 horsepower and 800 foot-pounds of torque, and that's at the crank. So probably with this being a quattro setup, give or take 15, 20% loss by the time it gets down to the wheels through the drivetrain. That is typical, that is average. So this thing is still laying down a serious amount of horsepower at 4 tires. Let me tell you, for a street car, luxury sedan, pretty quick on the street.
Bub, there were some aftermarket applications that were done prior to you getting it here at Bubba's Exotic Motorsports. It was brought to you because of the quality of what you built. The axle back or cat back exhaust that was on this car, one of the things you do, let me jump back a second, is you always build what we call into the future. It's something we always try to do, not only with our shows, our evolution, but the way you build and develop. So when you build something here, you're also looking back here for the future. In this case, the future was not built into by a previous facility. So when you received all of the APR components, the carbon fiber intake, and all of the exhaust components, there was a serious alignment issue. There's no way that you could have taken the components that were sent in by APR and matched them to the catback exhaust that were here. What was required is you had to come in on your time off and physically make the new exhaust system, bringing 2 into 1. The welds you put forth were designed to emulate the factory Audi welds, and they are stunning.
Well, yeah, it's okay. So, you know, to lead into that, right? So let's just throw, you know, rough ideas, rough numbers, just so everyone has an idea. So the exhaust that was installed on here originally was nothing wrong with it, solid brand exhaust. Quality's right up there. Typically over that $8,500 mark just for the parts alone on the exhaust system of this car, because it is electronic valve, it is titanium stainless, so there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. It does cost a lot of money. Again, these are high-end cars. They are not cheap. So the quality of the exhaust, very expensive, not something you really want to just take and put a saw to, right? You wouldn't want to do it. You wouldn't want to tell your client you've got to do it. But in some cases, you've got to work, you've got to do some mods. It's about how creative you can come to build something that works, right? So this system that was put on the car previously was an Apr exhaust, right? So the way it was designed was not designed in a, what you would say like a slip fit catback style system, which is where the factory Audi designs would have had a, you know, female-female clamp system held down just by 2 band clamps. You would have this clamp style system that would allow from like the factory catted pipe you just showed earlier, right? You'd have the factory catted pipe, then you have a factory down pipe from there. And then there would have been a joint section where that clamp would have been that would allow you to remove what you would consider at that point a catback exhaust. You unclamp it there, take off the old, put on the new, and you clamp everything back in place. This Apr exhaust was a little bit deeper than that. This was a full downpipe back exhaust, so it didn't have that clamp section anymore, which at the time was absolutely perfect. It was great if the client wanted to stop right there. It left him with a beautiful exhaust from the downpipes back, the original cats. So that worked. It was perfect the way the setup was done. However, now that we got the APR downpipe kit, those are high flow downpipes, cast right off the back of the turbos, and then there is a 3-inch slip fit connection that happens that goes into a stock high flow catted style catback system, right? So you would have this intermediate pipe that would have that clamped on section I'm referring to back from Audi's design that you would allow to just unclamp it and in a matter of seconds slip it up in there, put the clamp on the front, clamp on the rear, and it's done and it's out the door.
And this is one of the things you wanted to, as I looked at it Saturday when we cleared the air from the #1 rated internationally syndicated motorsports podcast, Doing It Bubba Style, airing 9 to 10 a.m. Saturday mornings, Eastern Standard Time. We came out and looked at this together, and you were showing me all the different approaches you could take to it. And one of the things that you couldn't do was simply slide these things together and join them. Your concern was welding to titanium. There were a lot of things you were working with in your mind to try to put this together so it resembled that of a catback or a downpipe back exhaust system. And what you wanted to do was be able to drop everything down modularly should there be a problem in the future.
Yeah, and right now also too, the biggest part of it was so here's, well, let me get to the end result, and then I'll go back a little bit. So the end result was, do you take and alter an $8,500 plus exhaust system from Apr? Do you cut that system up, modify it into pieces so that it slips into, you know, a different downpipe system, what truly should be like a factory connecting point where you'd have clamp, and it'd be done? Do you modify the expense of an $8,500 plus exhaust system, or do you modify a downpipe section that is probably a $500 pipe all in case the client ever wanted to modify and change it future on down the road, right? So here's what we did. The go-to was to modify the downpipes, which were probably a $500 value, You could take those, and if the client ever wanted to change them in the future, it wouldn't be an expense to change them. He wouldn't be at an $8,500 loss. He'd be at a $500 loss, right, to make those two components work together. So what I did was redesign that Apr downpipe that goes from their high flow cast downpipe from that section to the Acro exhaust, where the Acro system was a slip fit setup.
Sure.
I modified that section, had to relocate the cats forward about 6 inches, relocate the O2 bungs, which is not a big deal, move them forward just a little bit. There's perfect clearance on the bottom side of it. We did that alteration, and then what I did was weld everything, TIG welds on all of it, so that is literally a slip fit connection now, front and rear. So now if this client calls me and says, hey, I want to take this exhaust off and go to a, I don't know, maybe a different brand exhaust, whatever it is, maybe he wants to go to a Borla kit or something like that. He wants to do it, he can now truly order a cat back exhaust system and slide it right onto the altered pipes that are there because they are at a cat fit connection.
So you mentioned the word TIG welding. What's different between MIG welding, TIG welding, jig welding, big welding? What is that?
So you've got different styles of welding. You've got aluminum welding, you've got steel welding, you've got titanium. I mean, all kinds of different materials you're working with out there. Every one of them requires a little something different, and that is just a true art when it comes to welding. Some guys can do it, some guys try to do it, some guys just can't do it, right? You can't do it at all.
I can't do it at all, although my welding's really good, Bob.
Come on, bro. You would miss the seam by like 1.5 inches.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
So, you know, you take this thing, you've got, you know, MIG welding, you've got TIG welding. One is wire fed, one is fed by a machine. The MIG welding is all wire fed electronically. One, you are literally hand feeding everything, and it takes a lot of time to do. Yeah. So it's, you know, just again, you know, building for the client into the future, just in case he does ever want to change. I don't think he's ever going to change it now at this point. He is working with a very serious setup. All of the really critical bolt-ons you would want in terms of a bolt-on application of the cold air intake, get a little bit more air into the motor, also the full downpipe back exhaust system, get that air out of the motor. Then there's got the stage 2 tuning in there from APR. That flash is an incredible flash. Huge gains from that alone, just in the way that the car responds. But you do in a case like this, especially again in a forced induction application, it is super critical to anytime you increase airflow in and airflow out, you need to make sure you increase the fuel flow to match that parameter. And that is very, very important in order for this thing to not only run like it should, but respond, be efficient, the throttle response of it, and also to lay down the serious horsepower that it does.
How about the S550s, Bub, that are on air ride, but are also a twin turbo application as well? As you know, I drive one, or Miss Robin drives one, my beautiful bride drives one. Can you do these particular upgrades to these kinds of cars as well?
Yeah, there's, you know, it's almost endless in today's technology. You know, the only brand that we build with when it comes to any of like the AMG series platforms is Rentec. They are one of the #1 brands out there. They are very expensive, but I'll tell you what, you are building with Key. It is quality, and it's not going to fail you. Guaranteed, proven every freaking time. It doesn't matter if you're just doing emblem accessories that they sell provided aftermarket, or if you are doing ECU tuning, if you are doing body control modules for suspension stance, if you are doing exhaust systems, it doesn't matter. They have designed these products to unleash the beast in all of the AMG series rides, and let me tell you, it's everything from $1,500 all the way up to $40,000 packages that can lay down easily over 1,000 horsepower in any of the S-Class cars. So we've got one actually in the works right now. It's going to be insane. Stay tuned for that ride.
Hey, Bub, one of the things that's interesting is how today's cars produce so much horsepower and ride so effortlessly down the road. Here in South Florida, we have very straight, open roads. That is why you see so many high-end exotics here in the South Florida area, and it's also because there's so much money here. People retired from the north and brought the money down with them. Lambo, Porsche, Ferrari, Maserati, Bentley, I mean, they're all Rolls-Royce. They're all right here. They're right here. And these cars literally get out on the highway and just go.
Yeah, they do work, man. It's you know, it's hard because you're literally skating that line of you know, almost a car that's too much power. You know, you get into these numbers of 650, 700, 750. You know, we just finished a Z06 last week. You get into these numbers where you start pushing 700 at, you know, at any sort of platform. That number is a pretty respectable number in terms of horsepower in today's world. And I'll tell you what, man, it's that in the wrong hands, that could get somebody hurt really fast because you do build speed so violently. I mean, this car now 0 to 100 in this thing is like that. So it is, and it was from the factory. Trust me, it was from the factory. These things are beasts right out of the gate. Again, like I mentioned, 0 to 60 in like 3.1, 3.2, depending on the application. The RS7 package or the performance package is just over 600 horsepower stock. So these things are absolute beasts when it comes to just right off the production floor, super quiet, nothing special, nothing crazy. Even now with the full system on here, the full exhaust, it is still electronically controlled in valve, so you can set it in dynamic mode, individual, you can put it in comfort mode, you can put it in automatic, so it responds to however it is you're driving this car, and it is exactly what you would want it to be.
Bub, well, another question for you is, how do they handle it high speeds? When you're dealing with that kind of speed, what is it like to be out on the highways, the straight highways of South Florida? Is it an uncomfortable feeling? Is it an uncontrolled feeling? Is it a very tight feeling? What is it like?
No, there were, there were times where back in the day, man, think about cars from the 70s, think about cars from the
80s.
You could go earlier than that, but if I'm talking performance oriented, the first performance cars were, 50s, 60s, late 50s, early 60s, going through the 70s, 80s. You had a swing there where some of the cars were getting up in like the 120, 130 mile an hour range. Then it dropped off once the emissions laws came around in like the early 80s, where it was embarrassing when you're getting Monte Carlo SSs with 85 on the dash. That's ridiculous, right? So there are some cars that felt really, really, really strong in that 100 mile an hour plus range. There are some cars that at 80, they felt like the whole freaking thing was going to fly apart on you, right? And not fun. These things, even in the 140, 150 range, we've taken them out on the track. We've run them plenty out there. We've run a lot of the M Series rides out there, the Porsches, the Lamborghinis, the Ferraris. You take these things out, you've got them north of 150, and they just feel like they're cruising. Like the car is right at home.
It doesn't work
where it belongs. The handling,
it just doesn't work at all, does it?
The braking doesn't feel overpowered. You don't have to overcompensate. It's just right there, well designed, well tuned, and you ride.
The vehicle's just not doing anything to work. It's just going down the road.
Just doing its job.
That's part of the reason, Bub, you've transitioned from a lot of the American vehicles into the European vehicles. We talked about that Friday afternoon. We stayed late to work on this. There's great, American vehicles are fantastic, man. They make a lot of horsepower. Sure, there's the Hellcats and everything out here. This is a different breed of cat, if you will.
Well, it's we were talking about it with, again, the Z06 Corvettes, right? Brand new, super fast production cars, 650 horse and torque. Those are stock rated numbers, so you can again unlock those cars. They are factory supercharged, so I had a lot of potential for expansion in terms of exhaust, long tubes, tuning, cold air intakes. You can all kinds of stuff, right?
Different.
That car, even around town, if no one has driven it, is just violent with road noise. Like, granted, you get a really, really aggressive looking car just over that 100,000 price tag for the Z06 packages with all the carbon on it. So you get something very comparable, but you are buying a true sports car. The power is stupid. The torque is ignorant on these things. If you don't know how to drive it, people can wreck them very fast, right? They do lay down raw horsepower very, very quickly. But I'll tell you what, man, it is all about just like, to me, I like a lot of that performance, but I also want the luxury, especially if I'm spending that kind of money. So I would want it to be tight. But my personal opinion is, from the back of those cars, man, the road noise is just almost unbearable. And that's at 45, 50 miles an hour. I couldn't imagine at 120 when you've got the exhaust wide open, you've got, the road noise coming through. I could just see it not being enjoyable while still being enjoyable. This is just at 150, the same thing. You just do it.
In fact, Bub, you picked one up at the Marlins Stadium the other day. Friday drove it in. And one of the questions I asked you is, how does it drive compared to the BEM Porsches?
Yeah.
And you're like, two different animals, man.
It's two totally different cars. Yeah, it's, again, that power is there, man. Corvettes have always held it down for power. The C7s, man, the Z06s are just ignorant. They're if you put them into a track mode, hopefully you know how to drive, because they are literally, it's violent, the power that they produce. And it's one where it could get away from you really fast and get somebody really hurt.
I was pulling up the other day to a stop sign. We were out on the bike, and I pulled up. There was a 67 convertible Corvette and a new Ferrari. And I looked at it, and the tires on that Corvette back in the day,
5.5
so
wide,
thin
6.
and tucked way inside, Bub,
Yeah.
versus that Ferrari that's just, it's just dominating, man.
Yeah,
you
man,
see it all here.
You see all the rides here. It's a lot of fun, and it's even more fun just doing the before afters. Seeing those gains and feeling those gains. Some clients see it, some enjoy it. Some of them don't even notice a difference, but it's, you do these big builds, these packages. This one, I think the client's going to be very satisfied with it. I know what his style is, what he likes. And I think this is right up his alley.
Another great job, Bub. Thank you for taking us through it. On Friday, we're going to have a very fun episode, Bub. We're going to be releasing a new product here. It is one you are using to build a celebrity, a high-profile client's excursion.
Yep.
Let's just give a little preview to that before we jump out.
Yeah, man. So as you know, we do a lot when it comes to custom Kevlar coatings and these like armor-plated style, really aggressive-looking vehicles. We are doing an excursion for one of the ball players, very well known, by the way. We'll release that later on. But I'll tell you what, man, this thing is going to be probably a military-grade assault vehicle on the streets of South Florida.
Crazy, isn't it,
Pretty
man?
solid, yeah.
Pretty solid. And we'll be bringing it to you live from here at the BEM facility, Bub, where we will be showing the Rhino Pro line of products, Bub.
That's it.
It's going to be pretty cool, right,
Yep.
Bub? Until Friday, Bub.
Just keep on doing it Bubba style.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's make sure we reach out to touch somebody's life in a very positive manner before we jump into our sponsor deck. Let's open the door for somebody who's got holes in or their hands are full, or somebody who's got holes in the bottom of their shoes. Let's make sure we get them a pair of shoes. A pair of stilettos out of your trunk would work just fine. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? How about somebody's hungry, standing on the corner with the sign, "We'll work for food." Make sure they eat, man. A power bar and a protein drink would be wonderful. Make sure you help them. And make sure we reach out to touch all of these beautiful animals who are in our lives in a very positive manner as well. We need each other, right? They need us, we need them. It's an amazing thing. This episode's been brought to you by Bubba's Exotic Motorsports, ladies and gentlemen. That's Bubba's Exotic Motorsports. Visit us online for a catalog that will blow your mind away. Better than Summit or Jags, it's BubbasExoticMotorsports.com. The moose is loose down in Abacoa, ladies and gentlemen. 561-660-6695 for the best in all of the online boutique accessories and apparel. It is Miss Outlaw Boutique. How about Barrett Jackson's going to be here the 12th through the 15th of April. We're going to see you guys out there. However, on the 15th of April, we will be with the Tuttles and the New American Chopper Show in Florida here. We are going to release all of that information to you. You don't want to miss going to see that unveil, meeting us, meeting the Tuttles in person, the whole thing. It's going to be a great, great event. Bub and I are going to start talking about it in much greater detail here shortly and releasing all of the inside information to you about that. It's going to be very cool. And what you're going to see coming out of OCC headquarters, which we've already seen, it's going to blow your mind away. It's 5 years in the making, ladies and gentlemen, 5 years. Like BEM, very creative and on the cutting edge. And how about, ladies and gentlemen, we can't say enough good things to people like Nitto Tire and Greg Ortega and all of those people that stand behind us, Rough Country, all of these great people that are part of the Bubba's Exotic Motorsports family. We're truly blessed. Friday, as Bub said, we're going to be bringing you the new Rhino Pro system of coating. We're going to be doing a Kevlar textured finish on this ball player's car. It's amazing. This product dries in 5 minutes. As soon as it hits, it dries. There's no waiting time. There's nothing. It's going to be an amazing product. We're going to see some demonstrations, and it's going to be coming live to you from the Rhino Pro booth right here at Bubba's Exotic Motorsports. If you have any questions, ladies and gentlemen, send them to us at sales@BubbasExoticMotorsports.com. Bubba and I are contemplating taking one lucky winner up the road to see the unveil of the Orange County Chopper bike on April 15th. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that as well. Until Friday, ladies and gentlemen, let's just keep on doing it Bubba style. Little man, you ready to go get something to eat? Is it about lunchtime?